For thousands of years, in a galaxy far, far away, movies have made us laugh, made us cry, made us feel extremely awkward
when watching that sex scene with our parents.
No.
Let's all talk about films with a few guys you could just chill with. If you find a plot hole, they'll fill it right here on BRB Flix. Flix is a podcast for the silver screen. Yoshi rage quits while Jitterbug screams. Dave tries in vain to steer this machine, but the show digresses like it has ADD.
Be kind, rewind.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
You hear that? That's the sound of my Caucasian in my glass. This is the Big Red Flix, but you can call us the Flixness or Flixer or El Flixerino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Mm-hmm. Well done.
We're here to talk about the Big Lebowski and drink classy beverages. I'm Dave, here in Houston, Texas. Yoshifett is in California.
Yep, I'm here.
Are you drinking a White Russian?
No, I'm drinking a Blue Amp.
What the You're out of your element!
When the story comes from my hometown, where I live now, that a teacher has died at night because of drinking too many energy drinks, you'll know who it is immediately.
For some reason I thought you were you were about to go all reefer madness on having a White Russian while we recorded.
No, it's me who's headed to the grave because of all the weird chemicals that's in this drink.
It's all good. And, well, Jitterbug, are you having a White Russian with me?
No.
No,
of course not. I am having a delicious beer. Who do you think you're talking to?
No, of course not. No. That would only make sense, but whatever.
Well, he also drinks MGDs in this movie, and I don't drink MGDs. I drink other beers. So
I used to drink MGD back in the day when I didn't know what good beer tasted like.
Well, lots of people used to make that mistake.
When you're younger, you don't care. You're like, oh, it'll get me drunk. Yay.
It'll get you drunk.
Yeah, it's not the litmus test is pretty simple when you're that age, Like,
is it alcoholic? Okay, I'll drink your Boone's Farm.
Well, I feel crazy. Boone's. I remember. Quick side story. When I was working at a coffee shop down at UCLA, one of my friends came in to the coffee shop carrying a milk jug that had been emptied out and filled up with Boone's, and he had consumed maybe half of this already when he got in there. And he was like, "Hey, dude, we gotta go party now." I'm like, "Oh my god, you're drinking Boone's out of a milk jug? What have you become, man? I don't even know you anymore." It was crazy. Sorry.
What flavor was it?
I don't know. Gross flavor. Oh, it's Boone's. It all tastes like crap. I think it was like peach or some crap.
Oh, the fuzzy navel.
Yeah. No. Just turn in your testicles now.
Well, Big Lebowski, it's here. We're doing it.
That's right. It's happening.
It's good times. I love this movie so much. Like, I consider it like, you know how Indians used to have, Native Americans used to have the rite of passage? I think this is the rite of passage into manhood, since you can't go out and hunt buffalo anymore. You sit your son down and say, "Son, it's time. We're going to watch The Big Lebowski."
Did you guys have a father that would do that would sit you down and make you watch certain movies that he loved and thought that you needed to watch?
No.
Yeah, the crying game was really awkward.
My dad gave no fucks about art and what art that I would see or hear.
You mean you didn't have the Wasp dad who's like, "I hear Blue Velvet's showing down at the theater"?
No. My dad will, bless him, he's wonderful. He watches anything that comes on TV. He doesn't really have, strong opinions about art. He just likes a lot of it. And he's a humble boat builder, and he builds boats, and he comes home, and it could be, it could be a Sandra Bullock movie, and he's way into it. Or then it could be the next moment he's watching a classic from the 50s. It's like he doesn't have any he doesn't care. He's totally open-minded. He's like an anti-hipster. I admire him greatly for that.
My dad never really did that. There were his favorite movies that he liked to watch while I was a kid. Like Blue Thunder and things like that we used to watch. But other than that, no. Nope. Not really.
Not my dad. How about you, Jitterbug?
Yeah, my dad used to do that, but he would do it with wildly inappropriate movies that I should not have been watching. And
that explains so much.
Yeah, well, the most famous one amongst my group of friends, the most famous story, and it's because he actually dragged another one of my friends into it. my friend Matt was hanging out, and we were like 10 or 11 years old, and we were just doing what 10 or 11-year-olds do, you know?
Suck each other's dicks?
Well, you know, in the closet. But,
wow. David.
I know. And then so we walk through the living room, and he says, "Hey, I want you to stop and watch this. I got a movie I want you to watch. I just got it." And he puts in Apocalypse Now. And we all sit and watch Apocalypse Now.
When you're 11? Oh my god.
About 10 or 11 years old, and it like, my friend was just absolutely scarred by it. Like, I've never lived that down.
It's weird, though. It almost seems like that movie would be way too boring for a kid that age. Like, I wouldn't have been able to keep my attention for that long.
Yeah, it is pretty long.
Because that's kind of a slow movie, too. You know, it's not action-packed or anything, so...
Well, and just think about the first 10 minutes. You know, it's like, hey, 11-year-old, I want you to sit down and watch this. What the f***?
What are we watching here? Yeah. No, it doesn't make any sense for that age range. I mean, my inappropriate movie when I was very young, I don't even know how young, but my cousin had me watch The Shining. And I was below 5 years old when this happened. And my mom has, of course, never let that cousin live that down. But, you know, when I was a little kid and I was going, "Here's Johnny," you know, my mom was like, "Oh my God, what the hell? You don't take a kid to see The Shining." But hey, you know, we all make mistakes. It's okay. I was probably going to be pretty messed up anyway, so I don't blame her too much.
That's her. It's funny.
All right. Well, thank you.
There's a rant that we don't need to go on when we're doing Lebowski.
We like rants.
There's a bit of fatherhood in The Big Lebowski.
There is. It's subtle, but you know.
And there's a little dude on the way.
I'll suck your dick for $1,000 or $100. What is it?
Hello, Daddy.
$1,000.
Yeah.
Just need to go find a ATM cash machine. Is that what he says? Something like that.
But Brent can't watch. He's got to pay $100 extra for that.
She's so wonderful. Oh man, how great is he in this movie? I mean,
God.
Oh, you've never been to college. Oh, his little snarky comments are amazing.
Yeah.
Everybody. I've been thinking about this. How so many people I know love this movie, but most people, and I think you brought this up, Jitterbug, one time. Most people, the first time they watch this movie, they don't really get it. They don't really get what the deal is, and I don't think that I did either completely. I know I found it to be very entertaining and interesting the first time, but I wasn't like, oh, this is going to be one of my favorite movies. But the more you watch it, there's something about all the idiosyncrasies of the characters that just add up, and you just can't wait for those little moments that you know are coming, but it doesn't matter because they tickle such a particular spot in your funny bone that like you can't really get it from any other movie. I don't think like the type of humor that works in this movie is so original and specific to the characters. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess that's my working theory on why it takes time to get into, but it just seems like it's really about the characters being funny more than the actual lines of dialogue just being straight up funny. Although some of them are, you know, like you don't with the Jesus, that's funny no matter what you're talking about. So,
Well, the thing else I always say about The Big Lebowski is not only is it brilliantly written, but if you're looking at storytelling and you want to look at great examples of how to do different things, The Big Lebowski is the greatest example of any movie that I can think of characters being so important to the story. And I challenge people to find multiple characters in this movie that don't have an interesting story or an interesting or funny line.
Yeah, or a cause to be a reason to exist in the film. Like, everything is very well crafted. Even though it feels kind of chaotic, the more you watch it, the more you see why, oh, this character's here at this time. That makes sense, you know?
Well, and when you look at all of the different characters, every single one of them is hilarious and fascinating. With the exception, and the only ones I've found, are a couple of the bowling guys. Like, don't really have a lot to do. They're just there as the bowling guys, and they don't have great lines.
Well, think about the guy who has no lines, which is the Jesus' partner. Mm-hmm. But he just has the look. Like, he's the right guy to be...
Well, he has that little shuffle at the beginning.
Right. Oh, he's got right. So he even has a cool little something. You know, like, they all have something.
And I think that to me is why this movie just reigns supreme. It's so even down to Julianne Moore's friend who sits there and laughs on the couch.
Oh yeah, like a ninny the whole time. The is his problem?
And I remember when I realized that was I was watching this movie for the umpteenth time. Who knows how many times I've seen it? And it got to the scene with the Chief of Malibu, and he's sitting there across the desk from him, and he's doing his normal shtick, just asking him questions. And then when Lebowski says something he doesn't like, he throws the coffee cup at him and just whams him in the head for completely out of nowhere.
It's just it's totally unbelievable.
Hilarious.
Jackie Treehorse draws a lot of water in this town. You don't draw shit, Lebowski. It's just amazing. Like the Malibu is such like a trendy upscale place, and for the sheriff to sound so backwoods too is just another great little detail, you know, him talking about how much water he draws. Like, what kind of weird Southern expression is that he's using in Malibu? Like, what? So many moments, like the cab driver who won't turn off the Eagles. You know, I mean, just everybody's got something.
When that happened, when the chief thing happened, I thought, man, that's hilarious. I forgot how much I love that part of this movie. That's what kicked into my head. Man, every character of this movie's really funny, or at least has one thing that they do that's hilarious. And then the cab driver happened, and that's really what kicked it off, is it's like, holy God, that cab driver's hilarious. Who's not hilarious in this movie? Like, everybody is freaking hilarious.
Big black cab driver defending the Eagles. It's just like, what are we doing here? This is awesome.
Well, I'd say even the bowling guys that aren't that interesting, like Smokey, like, they might not be that interesting or funny, but what's said about them is hilarious. Like when they're walking out after the Market Zero, and Walter and the dude are talking, and he's like, dude, you can't do that. He's a pacifist. And he's like, I dabbled in pacifism, and then he's like, but he's sensitive. He has issues. He's like, you mean besides pacifism? That's fucking hysterical.
And he's like, I did not know that, dude. I was not aware of that.
Behind them, you've got the cop cars squealing up to the thing. I always love that scene because they're talking very normally and not paying attention at all to the fact that cop car is screaming up behind them, and you as the viewer, you can't not pay attention to that.
You know why that is, because they're calling the cops, man. Put away the piece.
You see the police officer running into the bowling alley, grabbing at his gun, and it's like, oh my God, and they're just completely oblivious to it. Absolutely hilarious. We should probably start.
Yes.
Yeah, because we can do this all night.
Honestly. Yeah, we can gush forever. Jitterbug, do you have a synopsis?
Yes, I do. Let's see. All right, let's do it like a really hardcore drama.
I was gonna say, can you do it like Sam Elliott? But I guess not. It doesn't matter.
I don't think he has the mustache to make that happen.
Yeah.
When the dude, Lebowski, is mistaken for a millionaire Lebowski, two thugs urinate on his rug to coerce him into paying a debt he knows nothing about. When attempting to gain recompense for the ruined rug from his wealthy counterpart, he accepts a one-time job with a high payoff. He enlists the help of his bowling buddy, Walter, a gun-toting Jewish convert with anger issues. Deception leads to more trouble, and it soon seems that everyone from porn empire tycoons to nihilists wants something to do with the dude.
Nice.
There you go.
Makes it sound all serious and scary.
I know, but there's just the part about how, like, the peeing on the rug is coercing him into cooperating sounds so funny when you say it so seriously. It's like, oh.
Dude, it's totally real, though, because there's
That's how seriously they take it in the movie, though. He peed on your rug, dude. Oh, my God. Your rug. No.
Dude, that rug really tied the room together.
I know it. It really did. Hey, man.
He peed on your fucking rug. He peed on my fucking rug. All right, so we start. We see the City of Angels, and we get the wonderful narration from one Sam Elliott.
Who said that he has no idea why he's in this movie when they were filming his scenes. He's like, I really don't understand what I'm doing in this movie. And they told him that they didn't know either. Because a lot of people talk about how, he's God and all this, and they never set out with that, really. I mean, clearly
I would say his character is sort of Shakespearean.
Yeah, he's like a chorus.
In nature, like when you'd go see an old Shakespeare play, like there would always be the person there to tell the narration to the crowd.
Yeah, the chorus is what they call them. And
that's essentially what he is, except he just so happens to interact with the dude at certain points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he interacts with the characters more than... The chorus doesn't generally interact with the characters in a play, but he serves the same purpose, and the other thing about it is that there's this like meta element of like, if you put Sam Elliott there, like, you're thinking Western, he's sounding Western, but this movie really has nothing to do with that. And that's kind of par for the course with this movie. There's so much non sequitur in this movie that it's almost perfect for him to be the one narrating it. and that he has some sort of intimate knowledge of, I mean, the whole idea of that he's God, I don't know, it's like he seems to know more about the characters than he should based on what's going on, or why he would even know the story. The only reason he knows the story is because he hangs out at the bar and orders sarsaparilla. It's like, what? But he serves as this really interesting foil to the other characters. So
Dude,
it's like,
do you have to use so many curse words? What the f*** is that all about?
and that joke shouldn't be funny. I've always contended that's the one joke in the movie that's so obvious that it shouldn't be funny, but because of Jeff Bridges' delivery, so offhand, like so unknowing, completely oblivious to the fact that, what are you talking about?
And plus, he has like those ice cubes in his mouth. Like, what the f*** is that for?
Yeah, no, totally. But normally, that's like the kind of joke that, you know, a 12-year-old would make up. You know, it's not a very good joke, but the way that it's done is amazing. So, I would just say that too. It's the performances that have a big impact. But anyway.
Oh, totally.
Well, and at that point, though, you just love the character so much.
True.
Yeah.
Good point.
And plus, you know, the dude needs his Johnson.
Why do you need Johnson, dude?
Yeah. So he sets up a lot of stuff. He's like, we're going to tell you about the dude. I don't know why anybody would call himself the dude, but the dude.
Where I come from.
Yeah. And instead of just giving you text, he's like, we're in, you know, the city of angels, and you know, it's right about the time we were involved in that conflict with the Iraqis.
Yeah. And I love that this is all in opposition to the shots of the dude going to get milk for his White Russian.
Actually, at first, it's when he's like there's just a tumbleweed rolling down the street.
Yeah, there's a tumbleweed, and then he's sniffing the milk out of the thing, and then
he takes a sip.
Right, and then he gets to the part where
it's a check for 69 cents.
Yeah, is it 69? I can never remember.
I think it was
$1.07 or was it 69? And then we get to the point where we get one of my favorite things about this movie is how certain phrases are repeated by the dude. He's a sponge, and here we see him seeing George H.W. Bush saying, "This aggression will not stand. This will not stand," and he's talking about Kuwait. And yet this is something that's going to come up over and over again where he will say this will not stand, or another character will say this will not stand. And they do this a lot. They'll plant a little line here or there, and then they'll use it in the movie later. And you kind of you're surprised about it, you know? Like, you're like, oh, that came back up? But then you start to see this as a pattern. They'll introduce various phrases, and people use just slightly modified versions of that phrase.
Well, and that's really something that you pick up on multiple viewings.
Right.
Yeah, they even do that in like his flashbacks, like the one with the dance number, I guess is what you want to call it, the porno one. Like everything in that has been seen already,
right?
In the movie at some point.
And it's so bizarrely psychedelic too. It's just wow.
Thank you, Kenny Loggins.
Well, and how did Kenny Loggins write such a good song? That's a great song. And I was like, wait, that's Kenny Loggins? Are you kidding me?
I'm gonna guess there's a lot, the occasional acid flashback.
I don't know. It just seems so much better than his normal music that I'm just shocked every time that scene comes on. I'm like, I love this song, but it's Kenny Loggins. Okay.
Well, it's not your typical Kenny. It's very psychedelic.
At least it's not Kenny Rogers. Could be worse.
Hey, I'm Kenny Rogers.
There's no chicken involved.
And next we go to the dude's house. He walks in. There's you see the light flip on, and there's somebody there, and he gets rushed from behind and gets his head slammed in the toilet. Where's the money, Lebowski? Dunk. Where's the money, Lebowski? Dunk. Where's the money, Lebowski? Oh, the fact he's like, it's down there somewhere. Let me take another look. And then he dunks his head again. That's f***ing hysterical.
Oh, no, that's amazing. And again, that's another one you don't really pick up the first time because it's hard to tell what he's saying because he's, his mouth is just, he's got like a combination of milk and toilet water all over his face. The other thing for fans of Lost out there, I don't know if you've ever made this connection, but the dumb thug, not the Chinese one, but the blonde one, is Jacob from Lost, who's like the uber powerful, like calm, center of the universe character on Lost. And here he just plays this dumbass thug. And it's really funny as a Lost fan. I remember when I first saw him, I was like, wait a second, that guy looks familiar. And he was supposed to be like this very important character with lots of gravitas. And then I'm like, oh, he's the thug at the beginning. He's the guy who goes, woo. This guy looks like a nobody.
And he's like, isn't this guy supposed to be rich?
Isn't this guy supposed to be rich? And I'm like, wow, okay. And also the same actor was on Dexter too. So he's been around a little bit, but never as memorably as here.
No. He's like, where's the money, Lebowski? He's like, your wife owes Jackie Treehorn money. He's like, wife? Do you see a fucking ring on my finger?
The toilet seat's up, man.
Yeah.
I love Wu's line. He looks like a fucking loser. And then the dude's like, Hey, at least I'm housebroken.
And then they're like, he looks like a fucking loser to me. So then they leave.
Yeah.
And the dude just chills on his toilet.
Yep, because what else are you going to do at that point? I understand. He's beaten, broken. He needs a White Russian.
Who doesn't need a White Russian?
Apparently not me. I need an amp.
Next, boom, we're at the bowling alley. And this is when we meet Donnie and Walter.
This was a valued rug.
Yeah, Donnie is he's throwing rocks tonight, and nobody pays attention to him. And Walter's like, "This was a valued rug."
I love that. That's Walter's first line. The way he says it too is just, you already get his sense of self-importance, which is so, sorry for being redundant, but so important for the rest of the movie. Is that Walter has to think that he's the smartest, best person at all times. Even though, near the end of the movie, he has somewhat of an epiphany about that, but he's always the one who knows a little more than you, and he's going to put Donnie down, and he's going to try to make big points about stupid little things, and just the way he says, this was a valued rug.
Well, you know why the Cohen Brothers had that happen, right?
No.
It's because in Fargo, Steve Buscemi's character never shut the fuck up. So in this one, he kept getting told, shut the fuck up.
That's funny. I didn't know that.
That's awesome.
Fun fact.
That's
very
great.
fun and awesome.
And one thing that's interesting about Walter is he's usually right, and you don't get that until way deep in the movie, that he's actually usually right about everything he says. You want a toe? I can get you a toe. I can get you a toe by 3 o'clock. You want some...
The alternate, I guess, argument against that is that while Walter may be right, as the dude says, he's an ass. And the problem is he's right, and a lot of times he gets himself in the middle of things he really shouldn't be in. And so he may be right, but he fucks things up more than he helps things, in my opinion. But that's part of the comedy, of course. His misguided sense of how he's going to get in there and help, and he's going to help him get the money back, and all of just the ridiculous stuff that obviously we'll go over that when we get to it. So
yeah, so essentially this whole thing is just, this whole conversation revolves around Walter and the dude going, fucking tied the room together, and then Donnie's like, what the is he talking about? My rug. He's like, forget it, Donnie. You're out of your element.
You're out of your element. This Chinaman who peed on my rug. And that's when you get the line about, and this is one of my favorite things about Walter, is he'll say crazy things about, just racist things about the Arabs in the Iraq war at the time. But all of a sudden here, that happens later, but we're set up with him correcting the dude on Chinaman.
In midpoint, because he's like, what the are you talking about? The Chinaman is not the issue.
Also, dude.
He's like, I'm talking about drawing a line in the sand, dude. Across this line, you do not. And also, the Chinaman is not the preferred nomenclature. It's Asian American.
And again, the amazing thing here is the dude's response, which is much smarter than you expect it to be.
Yeah.
He says, this is not a guy who built railroads, He's not like a Chinaman. I'm not fucking saying that. I'm saying he peed on my rug. And Walter's like, yeah, he peed on your rug. And he's like, he peed on the dude's rug. And they all just kind of
come... Donnie's like, he peed on the dude's rug.
They come to a consensus about that's the real problem here, is that they peed on the rug. But it's funny that there's this little diversion here to make us think that Walter might be racially sensitive, when he's totally not, as the movie moves on. He's not sensitive at all, actually. Let's just throw that out there. And this is the one time where he kind of like, oh no, you should use Asian American. Don't use Chinaman. You're totally messing everything up. And like, that's his mountain to die on, bizarrely.
No, he's like, Jeff Lebowski. They're gonna go see go see him. He's a millionaire. He'll give go get your money or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, fucking A.
I love Donnie's when he finally realized, oh, his name's Lebowski too? That's your name, dude. And he's like, what the f***? Donnie, what?
Well, I just love the last line of that scene. It's like, that's right, dude. They peed on your fucking rug. Yeah. So we had this whole scene that revolved around this one thing. They had one epiphany somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, that leads him to the next scene to meet Brand, right? Isn't that his
Brand,
name?
Brand.
Is it with a T or a D? I don't know.
I think it's Brandt.
It could be. Brandt sounds more right. So
yeah. Not a Brand. It doesn't matter. Philip Seymour Hoffman is the guy, and he is awesome because they're just going look at all these plaques and stuff on the wall, and he's like, that's the key to the city of Pasadena that the mayor gave Mr. Lebowski. Oh, and who are all these kids? Oh, those are Mr. Lebowski's children. Oh, a lot of different mothers, huh?
So I guess he's pretty racially cool, It's so amazing.
And he's like, no, those are the little Lebowski. Oh, that's cool. He's like, is there any chance he's got room for one more? Oh, you didn't go to college, did you?
Oh, but that line reading is my favorite in the whole movie, I think. Probably. Just the way that Philip Seymour Hoffman says, oh, you never went to college. And the dude is just so like, no, I did, but I was, occupying administration buildings, smoking Thai sticks,
Bowling.
breaking into the ROTC, bowling, I don't really remember it. It's like just great. Like, here's a guy who, if the dude was any sort of person who had a sense of ego or self or whatever, he would be angered by the things that are being said here because he's being belittled so massively.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't care. He's like, I just want to talk to this guy about my rug.
Yeah.
And this is something I want to mention early on here is that the dude himself, is painted as he's one of the laziest men in all of Los Angeles, which apparently puts him in the running for laziest in the whole world, which I love, by the way. Mm-hmm. And that he's supposed to be this laid-back stoner / alcoholic, essentially addicted to White Russians, and yet he is totally uptight. Like, this is the funny part. One of the funniest parts about this movie is that he is constantly the one who's flipping out and flying off the handle. Mm-hmm. There are a few scenes where he can keep this cool, but it's in the famous scene where Walter says, "Cool, calmer than you are, dude." That's like one of the big things about this movie is you'd expect the dude to be a mellower guy than he actually is, and he's not though. He responds very violently and quickly to things.
I don't know. Sometimes he's very chill. Like when he's getting told that Bunny's been kidnapped. And he's giving the note. He's like, "It's a bummer, man.
It's a bummer, man. You mind if I do it, Jay?" No, I agree. But a lot of other situations,
it's Walter that does it to him. It's Walter in his relationship.
Yeah, it gets him
almost
riled
every
up the most
scene
often.
that Walter's in.
That's true.
Lebowski the dude ends up getting angry by the end of the scene.
He's not Lebowski.
Oh, yeah.
He's the dude.
In fact, I think that is every scene. I don't think there is a scene that they have together where he's not angry at the end of it.
That's true. or crashing his car.
All right. So where are we now? We got to meet with the Big Lebowski.
We got to meet the Lebowski, and Lebowski is just down talking to the dude. He's like,
"I'm a Lebowski.
Like,
you're a Lebowski."
Well, my rug. And he's like, "You told Brandt on the phone. He told me. Where do I fit in?" He's like, "Well, they were looking for you, and they peed on my rug." He's like, "Wait a minute. Did I pee on your rug? You mean, did you personally come and pee on my rug?" And he's like, "Hello, do you speak English? Parle usted inglés?"
No, it's like I said, man. Wu peed on the rug. This is so, like, he knows who Wu is. Like, he just throws that out there. He doesn't even know if Wu is the guy's real name. That's just the name he overheard while they were peeing. And he throws that out there as, like, the Big Lebowski should know this. Should know who Wu is. And that it's... So I'm not trying to say you peed on the... I'm saying Wu did it, obviously. What's your problem, man?
He's like, so every time a rug gets urinated on in this town, it's my problem? And he's like, come on, man. And then essentially he's just like, are you employed? Employed.
I love the way he says employed there, too.
I don't know if we've really described the way the dude dresses. The dude dresses in like an old school, like Starsky and Hutch sweater and shorts and flip-flops. Like he has a bit of a scraggly beard and his hair is usually a bit disheveled. So he's a bit of a bum looking.
Dude, he's wearing a fucking robe.
Not in this scene. That was just the first scene.
That's right. But I mean, most of the time he's wearing that signature robe that's just so classic. What says I don't do anything more than just wearing a robe all the time?
Well, I love he's like you don't go out and make a living dressed like that in the middle of a weekday. And he's like, is this a weekday?
What is it? Again, another line that might not be nearly as funny if it wasn't for the way that it's delivered.
Well, because he's serious. He's like, it's a weekday.
What day is this?
Yeah. And then it just turns out to him basically telling him to go f*** himself. He's like, the bum's lost.
I have to mention this one little quick thing is that I was just talking about how there's the repeated, things that are said.
Oh, he's like, this aggression will not stand.
Right, but before that, he says, the Big Lebowski says to him, some Chinaman in Korea took him from me, referring to his legs. And again, it's like, that's just a little thing, but when you've seen this movie a few times and you hear Chinaman again, you're like, they were just talking about that, and now he's mentioning it.
Well, and it's a Lebowski that says it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's classic.
And I love the whole, at the beginning of this, when he meets Mr. Lebowski, he's like, blah, 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 Mr. Lebowski. He's like, look, let me explain something. I'm not Lebowski. I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, that or Duder or is dudeness or El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing. That's just you don't see that today.
No,
it's awesome.
Nope. There's no movie like this movie. It's very unique.
And then next, we get introduced the bunny. The problem.
The only good thing Tara Reid's ever done?
Blow on them.
Well, she did walk down an award show carpet with her boob hanging out.
Yeah, right after it had surgery, and it looked horrid.
It did. But before, on their way out, like, Brant's so what did he decide? Oh, he said I could pick any rug I want.
Well, yeah, he asked him how it goes, and he goes, okay! He's got this great... Oh, it's just another great Jeff Bridges, line. Okay! Said I could take any rug in the house.
And you walk outside, Buddy's out there painting her nails, and she asks him to blow on her toes. And then you hear this splash, and then there's some dude passed out in the pool. Oh, you don't have to worry about him. He's a nihilist.
Must be exhausting. I love it. This is because some people will jokingly call me a nihilist sometimes. Well, actually, I don't know how jokingly they're calling me that, but I love that fact that there are these guys that are supposed to be nihilists and they care about money, which totally invalidates the concept of nihilism. So it's wonderful.
We believe in nothing, Lebowski. And then she's like, I'll suck your cock for $1,000. He's like, really? And Brent's like, oh, uncomfortable.
And what? Very free-spirited. We love her very much.
She's like, Brent can't watch. That'll cost $100 extra. He's like, ha ha ha. He's like, well, I'm just going to go...
Find a cash machine, man.
And then next, we're bowling. Because that's what the dude does. He bowls. And Walter shows up a little late. But Walter says a quote. He's like, if you will it, it is no dream. And he's like, what the f***, dude? You're 20 minutes late. And what the f*** is that? He's like, oh, it's Theodore Herzl.
Yeah. If you will it was no dream. State of Israel, dude.
Yeah.
It's so great. You brought a fucking Pomeranian bowling? I didn't rent shoes. I'm not going to buy the fucking beer. I'm not going to take your fucking turn.
He's like, it's my ex-wife's dog. It's a fucking show dog with fucking papers. You don't leave it in a kennel. It gets upset.
I'm actually surprised that Walter's ex-wife doesn't have more to do with this movie.
Well, she's kind of like the puppet master. Like, she pulls the strings, like, makes him take care of the dog, made him Jewish.
I think that's a stretch because you like this movie so much. She doesn't play any part other than that she provides for this joke. This is the only joke that you could have had the I'm Jewish now.
I think the Jewish part is the biggest part of the joke, though.
Yeah, but you could have that. You could have that without this.
But that's the whole thing, is he's like got this internal rage and anger, Walter does. And what you find out through all this discussion of his ex, that's probably really the point, right? He hasn't been able to let go of his ex. He's taking the dog with him. He's continuing his interest in Judaism after she's already left him. Yeah, it's like... I think it goes some degree in explaining why Walter is so crazy. I think obviously she doesn't have a role, but as like an entity that exists off camera, she pulls Walter in a certain direction. Like, it's almost explanatory.
But there's no resolution to that.
Well, you don't. There's no resolution in this movie at all. That's kind of the point. There's no real the plot doesn't move on in any sort of.
I think that if you want to pick this movie apart and pick one thing where it's like, yeah, that doesn't really have a lot to do with the movie, I think that his ex-wife probably would be one of those things. And it's granted, believe me, guys, I love this movie. I'm stretching to try to nitpick anything I can, but that would be something. It's like, she's pretty much there for a couple jokes.
But they bring that up often enough, and I think it's integral enough to Walter's character that he's like attached to the idea of being Jewish still, and that it works in terms of explaining his character. I mean, sure, you could cut it out.
The Jewish thing actually plays into the plot. That part plays into the plot itself.
But I think also the fact that he can't get over his wife plays into the way that he acts. Like, I think that if you're talking about... You said this yourself, that all these characters have something interesting going on. Mm-hmm. Walter is like a guy who's got 90 things interesting going on.
But he submits to his wife, though.
Right.
Like, she's like really the only person he submits to.
Exactly.
Like, he'll fight with the dude, and he'll kind of stop fighting with the dude, but he won't, like, submit to the dude.
Absolutely. And it's this whole thing about he gets so riled up here in this next scene about Nom, and, there are rules here. It's not Nom. And so you have some sense that he's, has some sort of post-traumatic stress disorder. Obviously a funny kind of that, if there's a possible way for that to be funny. But that's part of his problem, and then the other part of his problem is his ex-wife, and it's like the two come together to make this crazy perfect character that is Walter. So I see what you're saying, Jitterbug. Like, you could take her out, you could play something else there, but I love the idea that he's haunted by a failed relationship. Walter.
Well, that's usually when he gets craziest, is when his wife is brought up. Because, like, right here they're talking about her, and then he's like, over the line! And then that whole, he's like, F*** that, mark it 8, dude. And he's like, excuse me, mark it 0. He was over the line. This is a league game. He's like, this is not Vietnam. This is bowling. There are rules. And then he's like, maybe he slipped over. It's okay, dude. He's like, the dude's being very chill. He's being very dude, as Walter would say. And he's like, this is a league game. This determines who enters the next round. Am I wrong? And then he's like, F that. Mark it 8. And then he's like, you're entering a world of pain, Donnie. Or Smokey, you're entering a world of pain.
Yeah, which became like a total catchphrase for a while with my friends and I, and actually my parents.
I still
too.
say it.
Yeah, the whole world of pain thing. Oh man, I remember that being one of the most quoted things from this movie for a while.
Yeah, and I love that he's like, Mark. He pulls out a 45, and he's like, mark it 0, or you're entering a world of pain. It's like a world of pain. And he like cocks it. He's like, am I the only one who cares about the rules?
You got fucking around here, mark it 0.
Mark it 0.
All right.
Great.
You crazy
Yeah, he's like, this is and then he takes the clip out of his gun, he ejects the bullet from the chamber, and he's like, it's a league game, Smokey. And he puts.
Oh yeah, the way he sits down is classic. That look on his face. Oh, so good.
Yeah, he's like, it's a league game, Smokey.
This is another case when they're leaving this scene where the dude is freaking out, and this is.
Well, I don't think he really freaks out till they get into the car, because he's like, he's a pacifist, man.
Yeah, I mean, even when he says, Walter, you can't do that. He's starting to get a little bit, and then I mean, by the time he has to tell him that he's fragile, that's when he's worked up. The dude is super worked up. He's not this mellow guy anymore, and that's when they get into the great. No, you're not wrong. You're just an ass. Which is one of my. I mean, that could be applied to real life so often. When you're talking to someone, you don't really want to say that, but you think that very often. Okay, yeah, you're not wrong, but you're just being a dick right now, and that's the dude actually comes out and says it, which is cool.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm perfectly calm. He's like, yeah, waving the fucking gun around. He's like, calmer than you.
Yeah.
He's like, just take it easy, man. And he's like, I'm calmer than you.
Yeah, and he's so self-satisfied. Walter's just like, whatever, I proved you wrong. I'm calmer than you.
He's like, he's like, I did it. I'm keeping my cool. I'm staying. I'm finishing my coffee.
And that's the scene while in the background.
Yeah, that's when the cops are rolling up.
Yeah.
Because when he pulls out the gun, he's like, they're fucking calling the cops, man.
Put away the piece.
Yeah, and then next we see the dude. One would call it just sort of leisurely lounging around his dude pad. He's checking his messages on his answering machine.
Isn't he just lying on the floor in this scene?
Oh no, this isn't it. In this one, he's making himself a White Russian and kind of making all the
point. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's doing all these like Zen poses and kung fu.
Yeah, that's right. He's kind of like a mellow Kenny Powers if you think about it. There's like some element of that. Now that I think of him doing that, yeah, not exactly, but I get the same sort of feeling from the characters. Anyway,
and his bachelor pad is just wicked. He's got like Nixon bowling hanging on the wall. And he's running around his robe with his new rug, and he's quite pleased with himself. And he's hearing like one of the voice messages, this is when they were just answering machine messages, no voicemail yet. Is the guy who Walter pulled the gun on, and he's like, "Dude, I'm going to tell the league people." And then, Mr. Lebowski, this is Brant. We really need to talk to you. Please call us back. And then other things from the bowling league talking about the incident with the gun. Then, ding dong, it's his landlord. And he's like, oh, hey, Alan. He's like, dude, I finally got that venue I wanted. I'm performing. He's like...
I love this guy. I love his scene later on when he actually does the performance art. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and he's like, are you coming? Oh, yeah, I'll be there. He's like, it's, the rent's due. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, actually, at first, he's like, tomorrow's already the 10th. He's like, far out, man. And then he's like, oh. And he's like, okay, yeah. You want the rent check. Yeah. And then, boom. Back and, hey, Brant, or Mr. Lebowski, this is Brant again. He's like, please call us back. I assure you, this is not about the rug.
Yeah, I hope you're not avoiding our calls because of the rug.
It's not a problem.
We have no problem with it. Yeah.
And then he has to reiterate again, thank you, it's Brant. Just the greatest conclusion.
Yeah, and then he goes to the Lebowski Manor once again, and he's like, we've had some terrible news. Mr. Lebowski is in seclusion in the West Wing.
This cracks me up every time. The way that the Phil Seymour Hoffman points towards the West Wing and lowers his head.
And
oh
his
my
head
gosh,
yeah.
So awesome. Like,
well, I love the dramatic music that is only there when that door is opened into the Lebowski's room.
It's all dramatic and awful, and oh no, what's going to happen?
And then Lebowski's having like this deep moment of, I look back at all my achievements, and he's like, and without the use of my legs, he's like, what makes a man, Mr. Lebowski? And he's like, dude, huh? dude.
I don't know, sir. I don't know. You tell me.
He's like, is it being prepared to do the right thing? Whatever the price? Isn't that what makes a man? He's like, sure, that and a pair of testicles.
And then, of course, the actor who plays the Big Lebowski, I don't know who he is, but his whole thing, you're joking. Perhaps you're right. Like, that part right there, how seriously he takes it, like, maybe there's some sort of depth and levity that's going on here. It's so indicative of his character. It's wonderful.
And he's like, mind if I smoke a J? He just pulls the joint out of his pocket. And then he's like, Bunny. He's like, excuse me? He's like, Bunny, she's the light of my life. She's been kidnapped. And he's like, and then he has this moment. He's like, strong man, do cry. And then Brant's like, got his face like looking at the floor. His face is all scrunched up.
Yeah, he's totally playing it. He is Lebowski's butt boy, and he's going to do whatever he wants him to do. So
this is our concern, dude. He's like, I received this fax this morning, and the dude is just sitting there like toking on his J, and then he reads it, and you start like the Big Lebowski's talking, but you hear like the dude reading it in his head, and he's like, it's a bummer, and he's like, huh? He's like, that's a bummer, man. That's a bummer. And it's like, we will kill your wife if you don't give us, $1 million in non-sequential 20s or whatever.
And the great line later when they're trying to figure out why he did it, or why they're picking the dude to help out. And he's talking about how you're in a unique position to either confirm and he's trying to think of an antonym, and he just goes with disconfirm that suspicion. It's just wonderful writing. Again, you were talking about this Jitterbug, but the writing in this movie is like, it feels so real. It feels like none of this feels constructed in any way. This seems like the real reactions of human beings, which is, I think that's kind of what you go for in movies, right? Isn't that the best scripts are the ones that feel realistic?
The really amazing part about that, though, is how insane each of the characters are. We talk about how they all have their crazy traits. So how do you make it to where it does feel realistic and not absolutely wildly ridiculous? Right. Because all of these characters are so out there. And I think a good example of that, which is a movie that I love, but the ridiculousness of the characters sometimes gets on you, is Raising Arizona. And I love that movie, but some of the characters, it's like, oh, they're insanely over the top,
Well, I mean, I'll have to say, that's my wife's favorite movie, Raising Arizona, just period.
Oh, it's great. I love it. But I would certainly say that the characters come off more as realistic in the Lebowski than it does in Raising Arizona.
You're bringing up a great point. This is... It's almost like Raising Arizona was training for this movie, because I see a lot of similarities in the two movies, but in terms of characters, but they do it better here, I think. I mean, there might be more of a pull in Arizona, because Raising Arizona, because of the story of HI and trying to get his wife pregnant and then can't do it, and just that love story might have a little bit more pull. But in terms of the ancillary characters, like you're talking about, yeah, they feel like, obviously Walter is a better character than the character he plays in Raising Arizona. So
oh, clearly, yeah.
They take the dude outside, and Brant gives him a beeper, and he's like, we'll page you if we when we hear back from the kidnapper. He's like, well, why me? He's like, we suspect the culprits might be the people who soiled your rug. He's like, so you think the carpet pissers did this? And then bam, it's time to meet the Jesus.
Fucking Quintana, man. Creep can roll.
I think Jesus is the best example in this movie of characters that are completely ancillary, don't have much to do with the plot at all, but are still tremendously fantastic characters. And I remember one time having a conversation with my wife, this was way before, right? Not long after this movie came out, about bowling movies. And both of us brought up Jesus. And we were sitting there thinking to ourselves, what movie was he from? Because clearly he was the main bad guy, or he had a big part in that movie, right? What movie was he in? And it's like, oh no, it was Big Lebowski, and he has nothing to do with the plot of this movie. He's just barely in it.
He's basically just there because you think there might be this bowling showdown at some point. Because while they do bowl and they do show them bowling against people, like there's never like that moment where they're like, if Donnie bowls a strike here, we're gonna win. Like there's never one of those in this movie.
Yeah. Thank goodness. It would be so... It absolutely works better without anything like that.
Oh, I wasn't saying and needing it. I'm just saying that's the thing. And he's just put up as the next stage of competition.
Though I think one thing that he does from the standpoint of like the overall mood of the movie, because there is this sense that the dude's always in a lot of trouble with various forces, and this is just like another thing. Like, I almost always think of it as, like, the dude is, like, the average person, human being, but he's got all these weird things going on, and they just keep piling on like a normal human, where you have, like, Jesus is no big deal in reality, in the movie, right? But he's this ominous figure that looms over their next round of play, you know? Like,
and I love this introduction, though, like the Spanish version of Hotel California and the little weird pinky ring, or the weird pinky nail.
And licking the bowling ball, most famous thing, probably.
Oh, yeah. It's John Turturro, dude. I love John Turturro. Love him!
Oh, yeah, he's great.
You know, the only reason that they made this character was because they saw John Turturro doing a play where he played a Puerto Rican. And they always thought, like, wow, I can't believe that he can do a Puerto Rican. That's insane. And so when they were writing this movie, they wrote in that part for him and did the child molester thing just so that he could have something to chew on with it. So to speak. Yeah, no pun intended.
8-year-olds.
8-year-olds, dude. And then they show him having to make that awkward trip. Hi, I've moved down the street from you, and I'm a sex offender.
What's a pederast, Walter?
And he just so happens to go to the 8-foot-tall biker's house.
Shut the up, Donnie.
And then we get the whole...
Oh, the famous I'm the Walrus thing.
Yeah, we're...
V.I. Lenin. Vladimir Ilyich
Walter's
Ilyanov.
like, so how much do they offer? He's like, $20,000, man. And of course, I still get to keep the rug. And he's like, just making a handoff. He's like, yeah. He's like, they gave the dude a beeper. And they're just talking about it. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, you know, she probably kidnapped herself. And then they just keep going on. And he's like, and then Walter says, look who profits most, and that's who's... that's who...
The dude says that. He's like, it's like Lenin said.
He's like, Lenin said that. He's like, I am the walrus. I am the walrus.
Well, the thing I love so much about this is this conversation could easily happen, like, between anybody. You know, you're sitting down and you're talking to a friend and you're talking about work, you know, and you're sitting there and you're bitching about it. And just like, man, that guy, that manager does this and does that, and he never does this, and you're probably telling a fish story, making it sound a little bit worse than it is. And that's sort of what the dude's kind of doing here, you know, and he's saying, you know, she probably just kidnapped herself. But Walter is the character that, nope, I take everything very seriously, and I'm going to examine that, and this little throwaway thing that the dude throws out there that a lot of us would put out about our boss or something, you know, something silly, Walter takes it extremely seriously. And like, okay, we have to take action on this, you know.
Yeah, and he's like, what do you care, Walter? And Donnie's like, yeah, why is Walter so pissed off? And then Walter makes it like a sort of like a rich man, poor man thing. He's like, those rich fucks. I didn't watch my buddies go face down in the mud.
I don't see any connection to Vietnam, Walter.
Well, there isn't a literal connection, dude.
Are we just going to spend this whole movie quoting it? This whole BRB? It's so hard not to talk about this movie without quoting it. It's, I would say it's almost impossible. It's just, you just instantly want to say the thing that they said because it's said so well, written so well, so.
And then Jesus comes over and he's like, are you ready to be f***ed, man? He's like, Liam and me, we're going to f*** you up.
Well, yeah, that's just like, you know, your opinion.
Your opinion, man.
My favorite thing. Favorite thing to say to anybody about anything. When you're at the end of the road of an aesthetic argument with someone about a piece of art, that's what you say. It's like, there's just nothing else you can say. Someone keeps telling me something's bad that I like, I just have to end up going, well, yeah, that's just like, you know, your opinion, man. That's it. That's all. Because that's, and I love how that line is actually really valid. That's really true. Like,
it is what it is, huh?
Things are other people's opinions, and that's all there is, you know? But it's funny, too, because it's a prediction that Jesus is making here. That, you know, same as to me, we're going to f*** you up. That's just your opinion. You might not f*** us up. It's just, what a great, like, I mean, I think about, like, some of my high school students that get very aggro with each other and want to have fights and stuff. Just imagining, like, one of them, like, hey, you're a little punk. I'm going to beat the shit out of you later. And the kid's like, well, that's just your opinion. I just can't imagine. It's just so funny thing to say in the face of so much hostility to just say, that's just your opinion.
I said that to a principal once because he was trying to prove a point. Because I called one of my teachers a dirty word. I know, I'm terrible. And he was like, what if I called you that? And I'd be like, well, that's your opinion. And he got really pissed off when I said that. He did not like that.
No, with administrators all you... No, I'm just kidding. I'm just not kidding.
Fight the power, children.
Yeah, no, don't fight the power. Fall in line.
And then he's like, let me tell you something, pendejo. You pull some crazy shit and flash your piece out on the lanes, I'll take it away from you and stick it up your ass and pull the trigger till it goes click. And the dude's like, Jesus. And he's like, you said it, man. Nobody f***s with Jesus. That's just f***ing awesome.
Rapid fire dialogue perfectly.
Love it. And then as he walks away, he's like, Walter's like 8-year-olds, dude.
Just keep it in perspective.
Yeah. Well, that's it for part 1 of The Big Lebowski. We're making pretty decent time. This might be a 3-parter, though. I don't know. We keep getting caught up in all this delicious dialogue. It tastes so good.
Yeah, it is yummy.
But we'll be back in a few days with part 2 of the F-bomb-filled Big Lebowski podcast, BKR thing, on the Flix, on Big Red Barrel. Anything I'm forgetting?
Home of the Big Red Dick.
Woo! Big Black Cock. Later.
You and your ears are quite welcome for the podcasting goodness that you just heard. Why not roll on over to BigRedBarel.com for more podcast, news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarel.com.